Woo! Good morning, everybody. Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead. Sitting out here, guys. It is a Sunday morning. Early. Sun is just now starting to come up and ain't even broke the sky back there yet. Got through feeding the animals and everything's coming to life. It's in the 30s here this morning. It's crazy. We were 25 yesterday morning, which was Saturday morning. Over at our pecan grove, our potatoes were up like a foot tall or a little bit better. Man, it burnt half the tops of all of them. Wanda had to go through with scissors and cut the tops off of all of them. Wasn't expecting that. A little bit different temperature than what it is here at where we live at here, but I think we was able to salvage them. I don't think it got down into the plant enough to ruin them. But here we are in the 30s again this morning, and by the time this video airs, we're going to be in the 80s. Matter of fact, Wednesday we're going to be 85 degrees, which means this morning I've got to go down to the high tunnels and I got to start unwinterizing, if that's a word, the high tunnels, because of the heat we're going to be having. It'll kill everything in them. So I got to go take off all the plastic that's on everything that protects them and stuff like this, on the doors and all the styrofoam we have screwed up over the vents to keep the heat in and all that. Oh, that's got to come off today, or we'll lose everything in them. And guys, it's the roller coaster weather we're having now, but it's not unnatural for this time of the year in the Deep South to have this. Now, it has been raining every week. At least 2 days a week we've been having rain. This coming week that's coming up when this airs, we have a very slight chance of rain all week, but it's very, very minimal. We're hoping to get no rain because we're just saturated. We got lots of work over at Pecan Grove that needs to be completed. We have our whole pond, the dam is cut. The guys down in it with track hose and mats trying to dig it out, and it's bad. But if we can get a week of dry weather this week, I think we can get the dam rebuilt and get it back completely dug out, ready to put water in. I got something going on around me here. Couldn't figure out what it was. For this early in the morning, that's highly unusual to hear that kind of noise. But anyway, that's where we're at. Gardening time is almost here. This week we will probably begin doing some gardening stuff. Today we're going to be working in one of the high tunnels, getting it ready to utilize them, and we're going to be doing whatever we can do to get as much stuff ready. The mulberries are all leafed out, got mulberries on them. Both of mine that I'm sitting here looking at are completely green. I see blooms all over the peach trees. The mayhaw trees are white with blooms. I mean, it's coming on, guys. It's coming on. I was told by weather sources that March would be a very warm month. Now, we'd have some cool mornings, but it would predominantly be a warm month. No major freezes or anything like that. So we're kind of hoping that that's right, because we got to make some quick decisions about what we're going to do. And that's going to lead me into what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about fantasy living, okay? Living the fantasy life. What does that actually mean, or what does it entail? I want to talk about that a little bit, because we're getting inundated with emails and comments and stuff like this, personal letters, things of this nature, about the things that's going on in the world, or in the United States, not necessarily the world, but the United States. So like the balloons and the fire in Ohio and things like this from the chemicals and stuff like that. And one person lives there and said, man, I can't even use my land. We can't plow. The farmers around us can't plow because they don't want to stir this dust up and have to breathe it. And I said, well, what about mowing the yard? When it gets to be grass, you go to mow it and you're stirring up all that kind of stuff. You can't mow the yards. I mean, you can't grow stuff. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, it'd be time to just pick up, move, you know, just walk away. And the sad part about it is what Wanda and I was talking about is, you know, where would you go really that you wouldn't be guaranteed something like this wouldn't happen again? I mean, that's something that you would have to consider. But guys, today, living a fantasy life, what does that mean? A lot of the comments we're getting, people are saying, Danny, if I do the EMP shield, will I still have electricity if an EMP happens? The answer is no. All you'll do is protect your assets so that when the power comes back on, if it comes back on, they're talking about, right now there's a program underway to get the power back up as quickly as possible if a coronal mass ejection or an EMP happens. And if that's the case, you won't have to, your stuff won't be fried and burn up, because if that happens, there's going to be no manufacturing to replace it with. So why not protect it ahead of time? That's my thing. I mean, we have, and we have everything we have is protected by it. So we've diligently saved money, purchased and saved money and purchased them, you know, to get them on everything we have. And that's, you know, that's where we are. I'm trying to purchase one to help an elderly person out. That's not a long way away from us, but you know, it's close enough. They're friends of ours, and they don't have any way to actually protect themselves and don't really know about it. So I told them, I said, you know, if I can save up enough money, I will get one and come put it on your home to help you still not lose everything you have in your home if something happens. And that's, guys, we have to, that's what I'm talking about, living a fantasy life. I'm afraid that most of us who are prepping for a particular lifestyle in the event there should be a massive or a major catastrophe. First off, let me say this. In order for the beast system to work in the end times as spoken of in the scriptures, there has to be some form of intelligence, and it has to run off of electricity. So to sit back and to say that there's not going to be anything left, I can't do that. Because when Mystery Babylon is destroyed in Revelation, it says that the merchants are sitting off the coastlines in their ships, wailing and lamenting because she burnt in 1 hour. Literally, it says 1 hour she burnt. And if that's the case, we're way up in Revelation at that time, and people are still doing business. They're still trading. They're still doing business. I mean, the ships are still coming to seashores and stuff like that. So everything's not gone. It's still functioning. So this is the point that we're at. I don't believe in my heart that everything will just be done away with, because of the simple fact that there has to be some form of mercantile manufacturing and stuff like that to still be going on in order for these things to happen. Now, after we sit back and we think about it and we look at these things, there's all these events that probably is going to take place. And, you know, you have to look at what the scripture says. And we have to be careful about what we read into the scriptures and not add to them. The Lord promised us that He would not destroy the earth by water again. Now, what He did not say was that there would not be massive water events on the face of the earth, because since the flood, there has been massive water events on the earth. Now, He did not destroy the whole earth again, but He did allow massive water events. And yes, they can happen. And people always sending me these things saying, Danny, in Genesis it says that there will be seed time and harvest and winter and summer and spring and all this until the Lord until to the end. And I said, yes, but he did not say that it would be over the whole face of the earth, because in the 1800s when Tamboral went off, we had a year without a summer. There was a whole year. There was no summer. There was no seed time. There was no harvest that year for what? For certain parts of the earth. Not the whole earth, but just certain parts of it. In the south, they could still grow their food. But up north, people just froze to death and they died of starvation because they had no way of providing for themselves in the United States and in Europe. So we have to look at what the Scripture doesn't say as much as what it does say. Now, in our preparing, I'm trying to figure out how to say this and not sound horrible about how I say it. I mean, because so many people are so sensitive. They can't just take the truth because they think that it's fear-mongering. Oh, I'm scared. All this kind of stuff. Well, we're all scared, okay? If you say you're not scared, you're a liar. Because in order for something as massive as what's coming is going to happen, it should strike fear in everyone. But let me tell you this. We are not the people that our forefathers were. Wanda and I were sitting this morning we talked about a black gentleman that used to work for a family not far from us here back in the 30s and early 40s. This gentleman, he sharecropped for a family not far from here. They were a very wealthy family. And no, he wasn't a slave. Nothing like that. Don't even go there. He was a friend of the family's, and they gave him a job and a place to live. He wanted a milk cow, and he walked like 10 miles through the woods to go get this milk calf that he found out that a person had. A little calf, several days old. He got some milk in a bottle, and he toted that calf back to his house. He had no wagon, nothing like that. He toted it. He walked back and toted it, spent the night in the woods with the calf, sleeping next to him, got up the next morning and toted. Guys, talking about cows, one had to show up. That's my little bull. It's not Dexter, it's my other little bull. He's showing his oats this morning. But he toted that calf all the way back and brought him home, raised up that little calf to be a milk cow. And he would breed it with another cow, another bull later down the road to be a milk cow for him and his family. Those people back then had integrity. They had stamina. They would get out and they would do. How many of us would do that? Or we just say, well, I guess I'm going to have to do without milk. I mean, he left his wife and his kids and he walked through the woods for 2 days to get there and 2 days to tote this animal back. Now, that is called surviving. And today, I mean, stop and think about it. We talked about this last time. What if the balloon had an EMP on it and it had happened? Where would you be today? Is there some things that we haven't thought about? When I'm sitting here at my house, and I live rural, but I have neighbors, and they live distances from me. All neighbors are distances from me. But every time one of them fires up a barbecue grill, now I don't see the smoke from it, but I sure do smell that food. I can smell when people's cooking red beans and rice. All that scent, if they have the windows open, that scent just carries through the air. And guys, do we think for one moment that if something happens that we're going to sneak around and cook something and nobody's going to know it? Because if you don't have a way to cook without making smoke, first of all, you're going to have smoke. Secondly, the smell of the food is going to go through the air. I mean, somebody's going to track you down, especially if you live in a suburban area. It's just not going to happen. You'll have to come to a point, you'll have to make a decision. I'm either going to give part of it to them, or I'm going to defend myself and keep it, and I may have to take a life to do it. You know what I mean? These are things that we have not thought about. We are a soft nation. Third world countries, many of them function together. Whole families live in small places, and they all work together. They walk long distances to tote water. They walk long distances to bring sticks back to cook with, bundled up in big bundles on their backs and stuff like this. Most of us can't even walk a half a mile. I mean, think about that. We sit back and we go, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. You don't understand. Another, your medication. I don't take any medication. I'm supposed to, but I refuse to. I mean, stop and think about it. If you're on some types of different medications and you can't get your medications, what then? What do you do? Have you studied the natural things of life instead of taking Chinese-made synthetic stuff? Have you looked into that to see what the natural options are out there for that? I mean, there's lots of YouTube channels out there that has talked about taking themselves off of certain medications. I know friends of ours, Rain Country, Heidi and Patrick, have talked about how that they took themselves off of thyroid medication and stuff like that. I mean, naturally. And there's tons of people out there that has videos. I helped my mother with her blood sugar problem with okra water and things like that. I mean, there's all these things out there that we can do. Now, does one person have all the answers? The answer is no. That's why community is important. What about, I mean, we stop and we think about, what about, you're going to raise a garden. You say, well, I'm going to raise a garden. Well, what you going to fertilize it with? If you have animals, more likely somebody's going to take them or to eat. You know, like you see in the background for me here, you know, I mean, I'm going to have my hands full because people will hear my cows and they'll say, well, there's cows over there, you know, and they're going to want to come kill them and eat them. I mean, these things we all have to take into consideration. What about your animals in the house? So people got dogs. I mean, how is it that I'm the bearer of bad news when I tell you the truth about these kind of things? People's got dogs, people's got cats and stuff like this, and other types of animals in the house, pets. What are you going to feed them if something happens? Stop and think about that. They're going to give you away. I mean, if you have a dog and he barks, people's going to go, oh, there's a barking dog over there. If that dog's still alive, those people's got food to feed that dog, and they're going to come to you. And if the dog gets in the way, they'll kill him. I mean, guys, I'm talking blunt today. And I'm not talking as blunt as I normally do when I talk to just personal individuals. I mean, we're talking YouTube blunt. Let's say that. I mean, people, I'm afraid we're living a fantasy life. We think that, well, the power goes off. I've got my preps up, you know. I mean, I got enough food stored up in buckets. I got beans. I got rice. I got all this kind of stuff. Well, first of all, do you have a way to cook them? Secondly, do you have clean water? Do you have a way to get clean water? Because if you're on a municipal water system, you ain't gonna have no water. If you live in somewhere like Ohio, all your water's contaminated. Do you have a way to filter it? Get those contaminants out? I mean, think about this stuff, guys. What are we preparing for? Now, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm trying to be realistic. Wanda and I go through these scenarios all the time with one another. We're sitting back talking. What is the answer? Well, I'm gonna give you some answers. And these answers are only good if there's no poison or contaminants, okay? And that's why we tell people, get a high tunnel. Get your dirt in a high tunnel. So that if something happens like what happens in Ohio, you can close that thing down tight and you can protect the soil in it so that you can at least grow something in there and it not be contaminated. But guys, I think so many times we're not thinking about the solutions for dealing with these problems. Some of the solutions: water purification, EMP shield, greenhouses. Go check out Grower Solutions. We got a link for that for greenhouses. If you can't afford a big one, get a small one. We're going to be showing you videos about new grow light systems we got, because we got comments this past week. Danny, did you know that Bill Gates is trying to chemtrail the sky and keep the sun out? I'm like, yeah, I knew that. Well, they said, well, I'm not trying to say that you didn't know. I'm shocked that this is really real. I'm like, yes, it's real. So we're getting grow lights that, as long as we have electricity, and this is as long as we got electricity, we're going to use them if there's not enough light, because we're realizing in our greenhouses that we're not getting enough sunshine on a regular basis to keep everything at optimal growing conditions. So we've been checking with companies, and we have found some grow lights that string down through our high tunnels. I mean, solutions, guys. Don't panic, because we're not the people our forefathers were. We're soft. Let's just go ahead and admit it. And I'm putting myself in that category too. The older I get, the softer I get. Used to, nothing bothered me. My comment that my father used to tell me: son, you know why children are so beautiful? And I would say, no, Dad, why? He'd say, so that they can be tolerated till they acquire some sense. And I think about that a lot of times. And sometimes I think it's not just children. I think it's young adults. I think it's adults. Sometimes adults, we just tolerate them till they acquire some sense. What causes the necessity of inventions? Where does inventions come from? I'm an inventor. I've had patents. Where does inventions come from? The mother of necessity. And you stop and you think about inventions is the mother. Necessity is where inventions come from. When you have to struggle with something and you're trying to figure a better way to do it, and then all of a sudden you come up with this idea and nobody else has it, and you jump out there. I've done this. You jump out there and you patent it right quick, and that's the way you don't be fooled by patents. Patents is only good for 5 years. That you have to make your fortune in 5 years if you're going to do it. After that, it's game for anybody. But guys, stop and think about this. What kind of a lifestyle are we preparing for? Are we preparing for a lifestyle of luxury? If everything goes haywire, that ain't going to happen. Are we preparing to be able to get out? Oh, well, I got a few raised beds. I think I'll make it. Ain't going to happen. It can supplement you, but it's not going to get you through totally. Even at my phase, at what I'm doing, Wanda and I are very questionable as to how far we'll actually make it. Because all it takes is one accident, one health issue, and it's all over. It's a struggle from that point forward. So that's where we're at, guys. I just want us to be aware of what's going on around us, and don't get caught up in a fantasy lifestyle and think that life is going to be something similar to what it is now, because it's not. When the lights go out, the lights go out. There's no light. There's no cooking. There's no gas. There's no electricity. There's no driving to town. There's no doctors. There's no ambulances going to come get you. There's no going to a pharmacy. There's no going to a grocery store. There's none of these things that's going to happen, guys. We'll be on our own. And it will only be then that our faith will get us through. Because at that time is when God will kick in if we've been faithful, and He will help us. And that's what we have to realize, is build your faith. Make sure you're right with your Maker. Because if you're not, you will be one of the ones that struggle the most. Don't be one of those that when the end comes for you, He looks at you and says, "Depart from me, I never knew you, you workers of iniquity." Don't be like that. Be the one when you stand before Him that He says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." That's what you're looking for. Help others. That's what Wanda and I are trying our best to do. We've picked several elderly people this year to bless. And we've been adamantly trying to do our best at it. Now, we're elderly, but they're more elderly. And we're trying our best to make life for them as easy as we can. And at the same time, take care of ourselves and our families. So guys, that's where we're at. Work on your faith. And like I said for my tip in the live stream the other day, when they said look up, don't look up. Look around and see what they're distracting you from. Because they're drawing your attention away to something that means nothing. Because behind the scenes, there's something massive going on. There's lots of things going on in the Middle East right now. Get prepared for that to happen. Get prepared this summer for events to take place that will shake you to your core. Get prepared for weather anomalies like you've never seen before. Guys, remember I told you was going to see all 4 seasons in a day? That's already happening. So think about this. Are you living a fantasy life, or are you being realistic? Stop and think about all that food you talk about you're going to cook. Where are you going, all this dry goods and stuff like this, where are you going to get your water from? And if you do cook it, are your neighbors going to smell it? Is a stranger going to smell it? Can you protect it? Think about these things, guys. And it'll help get you through life a little bit better. Today's not a fear-mongering video. It's a reality video. It's a YouTube reality video. Have a blessed day, guys, and thank you from Deep South Homestead.